From the Spacebird Media Studios, it's Roxanne and Ace Unlimited.
Welcome to Roxanne and Ace Unlimited, where we talk Jesus and everything in between. Some funny stuff, some serious stuff, some crazy stuff, and some solar eclipse.
You got your glasses already. I'm behind the times.
I'm ready. I'm excited. I think the world's excited.
I remember the last one because my daughters and I got the glasses and we did the solar donuts from, Krispy Kreme and made the most of it, and it was fun. So I'm on board for, whatever it does to derail the workday so we can all enjoy some little piece of history. It's kind of cool.
So here in central Alabama, we will not be apparently in the path of totality where you see the whole thing happen. And right now it looks like cloudy skies on Monday, but we're still going to be able to see a good bit. And I know schools have canceled. Churches are gathering from all over, including Coriel Community Church in Gatesville, Texas, where they have a hilltop area with 70-foot crosses over a city there by Waco, Texas. And it's a very spiritual experience for them. And I was thinking, what is that all about? Well, if you think about an eclipse in ancient times, people would look up and they would think this is the end.
Yeah.
I mean, it was frightening because they didn't really understand what it was.
Yeah.
And other churches say, it's not an omen, it's not a sign. We just want to get together to celebrate God's glory. I mean, look what he's able to do. How imaginative is our God?
Yeah, it's really cool to watch. And even though you're not supposed to look right at it, you got to have, the special glasses like Roxanne has. And, or I think, what is it? You take a shoebox and poke a hole and you can look through the hole. I don't remember how it all works out, but all of that to say, there's an element to it that you can't not, even if you just look at whatever pictures, people post on social media, looking at it. I mean, God's canvas is fantastic. I'm a sucker for sunsets and sunrises. So you don't throw an eclipse in there and I'm like, look at that. It's just amazing to think about how all the things, and you can say, oh, that's science. Nuh-uh. I don't believe in all of that. And I know that God is, and if it gets people talking about signs and wonders and end time stuff, fine, have those conversations. They've been having them for most of my life, and Jesus still hasn't shown back up. So I think we got a while, but let's start that conversation so that we're at least talking about it together.
Well, it won't happen again until 2044. So do check it out. Some people are doing it, in a very fancy way. They're boarding airplanes that will cruise at 17,000 feet with a glass of rosé. Oh, and it's only $2,000 to do so. And they have 14 different flights that are completely sold out because people want that truly bird's eye view of the eclipse. This is happening in New York City. Pretty fancy.
Well, and I love too, in addition to the Krispy Kreme eclipse donut, there's a lot of restaurants and bars and stuff that are creating special menus and drinks and things to kind of line up so that it's almost like a St. Patrick's Day kind of thing. It's yeah, come on, it's the eclipse, and what would you say by 2042 is the next one? 44. Yeah. So
you will not see anything like it. And so it's major.
Yeah, so we want to take advantage of that. And of course, as we get to spend time with you, we want to say thanks to My Brother's Cup and Birmingham Mortgage Group, as of course we get to enjoy the fact that as we are coming off of Easter week, what are some of those relatable struggles that we learned about what Jesus went through that apply to our lives?
He can identify with those who have to do without. Foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. Luke 9:58. We do a street ministry where we visit with many homeless people, and we forget that people are hungry. And it really hit me hard because I had just come off eating such an extraordinary amount of fancy food on Easter. Yeah. And there I am the very next day, and here comes this little guy in a Shrek shirt. And he walks up to our table and he said, I walked to the ATM. I don't have a card. a car and the ATM was closed. I had very little money left, but I didn't get to eat all weekend. And I asked God this morning, please, please feed me. And he said, here I am standing here in front of sandwiches and cupcakes, smiling faces, and I guess God loves me. I mean, it was just like something out of a movie.
Yeah.
But it made me, and here we are talking about that Jesus was poverty stricken.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't full of money. People could say, well, he could conjure up money. That wasn't what it was all about.
Right.
And he was exhausted. He walked everywhere. I just love how Jesus was fully man along with being fully God.
Yeah.
And so we think, well, he wasn't tempted, but we know he was. He didn't sin.
Yeah.
So all of these things that we go through are so relatable.
Yeah. And I think if you too also look at not just the time and era in which Jesus was alive, but really the amount of ridicule and the amount of, judgment that he faced in that last week of his life, that, I mean, we experienced that in a lifetime and it's excruciating to us. So who better to go to God on our behalf when we lash out or we, do something in a hurtful way than for Jesus to say, I know what they're going through. That's what I faced when I was, going through the streets. And that's what, when people were mocking and spitting on me and lashing me, like he knows what that's like. And, and he comes from a blended family. I mean, can you imagine being the stepbrother to Jesus? I mean, come on. I mean, there's a lot of elements that we forget about. And something too that really didn't even hit me until Easter weekend that is not even so much related to just Jesus, but in our belief of him, is that think about the man who was on the cross next to him, that he said, you will enter the gates of heaven with me. I will remember you, all that stuff. There was no formal, confession, communion. There was no baptism. There was no, ritualistic anything from this man other than he believed in the fact that Jesus is who he says he was, and he is. And that's what I love coming out of Easter, is that hopefully you retained that part of whatever message your pastor or priest told you, is that we are resurrection people in a Good Friday world. So how amazing is that to think about that he does relate to us. He does know our struggles, and all we have to do is believe in him and go, come on, let's go. I got you. And I love that, because when the world is against me, because again, I'm Gen X, I don't care what other people say or think about me. So coupled with the fact that Jesus has got me and understands my struggles, he can call me out. You can't call me out, because he knows what I'm going through. He knows what I've been through.
Yes. And he's so full of grace. Why do I deserve the life that I have? I don't. But I just think he loves us so much that he's smiling. I think there are moments where he's like, Ace, great job, Ace, I'm proud of you. I just think there's so much support and love there. Yeah. And the world throws all these slings and arrows at us, and the enemy tries to pollute our minds and get us to do things that we don't want to do. And then there's Jesus. He's just so much fun to talk about because he's so completely awesome.
Amen.
And that oversimplifies it. But I love that description, And as our guest that we have on talks about, only Jesus can really judge me. I mean, he's my judge and jury, and he stands as defense attorney for us before a holy God.
Yeah.
So I think the outcome will be okay.
It's true.
Cheap dates that you will actually want to go on. I feel like, when Wayne and I first married, we were really watching every single penny.
Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy. And so we would try to get creative. And he would, we would just get a picnic and go to a park, or we would find where there was a free movie night, or we would Groupon and only go at lunch and then split the lunch and try to find free things like concerts in the park. And it does not have to be outrageous. We would go to a bookstore just because he knows I love books and just look around. And that was a date. And it sounds crazy, but it was super fun to me.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I'm all about being thrifty and BOGOs and Groupons and whatever you can to get, maximized out of that. But I love the idea of, remembering back to simple things. So it could be like a dance class, or it could be, volunteering, something in the community. Or what I love too is think about some of the things you did, like when you were first dating, when maybe money was tight. I mean, I know if you're dating in your 40s and beyond, you're like, I got money now, let's go to a nice expensive dinner. And I mean, even if I wanted to impress Tawny in our early days, I was not trying to impress her with, look at me, I'm making money, like, I work in ministry. Like, this is me. But she also knows me well enough now that, like, if I buy things like at the grocery store and there's an abundance, she's like, oh, BOGO. I was like, yeah. She goes, you really love me, don't you? So sometimes loving in the thriftiness is fun because you get back to those basic roots of when you fell in love and were charming and, really, really liked each other.
Well, saving money is super important to our friend Turan Newell. He knows that you work very hard for the money. He
Yep.
knows that people are up against interest rates that they may not like. He knows that, young people are being told, forget getting in a house, although that isn't true, because he's like the dream maker. I mean, he makes dreams come true. I'm talking Birmingham Mortgage Group and our friend Turan Newell.
Yeah, it's great. I had a chance to talk with him this week, and now that he's working with a builder, it allows him to be able to help you from start to finish. So whatever it is, whether it's the first home or a dream home or expansion or whatever, you don't think you can afford it, maybe all the stuff you save on, these cheapo dates, then you can apply it to your down payment, but he's got great programs ready to take care of you. So whether you're in Florida or Alabama, he will absolutely figure out what you need before you even start to, knock on doors and go, hey, open house, so check it out. Go to bhammortgage.com or call them at 205-259-1656.
How do you deal with frustration and a lack of results when it comes to your goals? Sometimes we're in the messy middle where, well, we keep on trying, like with eating or with working out or whatever it is. I'm not really seeing the results. I'm getting frustrated. That's when most people quit.
Yeah.
And the experts say you really need to celebrate your successes along the way. I mean, I started a workout plan and a squat was excruciating. I'm just going to admit it. And now I'm like, I got my 10-pound weights. I'm doing, some pretty fancy squats with one leg up but it took a long time.
Well, and I think that's the thing to remember, and I'm not one for, like, one and done kind of thing. I mean, sometimes you have to not look at your results per someone else, whether that's job related, workout related, any of that stuff. But even if you have a day, like, we just celebrated Easter, we all overate, right? It's like anything that we were doing before that was shot for the day or a couple of days maybe. But the great thing is, you can pick back up. Every day is a new start. Just because, you said that you were going to do this in a 3-month window and you did something 45 days in, that's okay. You still got another 40 days. And if you want to start over, start over. It is a slow and steady wins the race, no matter what goal you've tried to attain.
Yeah. Take those little baby steps. They add up. There's a great book called Atomic Habits that will walk you through how you can compound your habits to get results swifter. I think it's really, really good. How should we study the Bible? I think this is brilliant. Since we just went through Resurrection Day, what are we looking at when it comes to the scriptures? Well, everything from Genesis to Revelation is where we see Jesus. Glory to glory. There's so much in the Old Testament that gives light to the New Testament. Yeah. And what was Jesus like in the New Testament? Must be our Jesus podcast. He was concerned for the poor and taking care of widows and healing everybody who came to him and being a friend to the friendless and touching lepers, which is something you never did. And not screaming back at his accusers, but being gentle.
Yeah.
and being respectful while maintaining that I am the Son of Man. It's just the whole Bible should be Jesus, glory to glory.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, and again, coming off of Resurrection Sunday, it is about that inner peace. It is about letting go of the things that we just carry on and drudge on and, and just think will define us forever, but they don't. And the thing I love most, and I've seen it probably, I would say most example conversation wise within the last probably 5 to 7 years, is when people know that you've changed, they see it in you. You don't have to say Jesus. You don't have to say, I did this or I did that. They just see it in you. They see the way you present yourself and the way you talk about yourself and your life, and you talk to other people. And then they're like, hey, you seem happy. You seem at peace. Are you, what changed? And then you can go, well, actually, and then that's an opportunity for you to then talk about what God has been doing in your life. Because again, it's not anything that we do other than just surrender, right? He just wants us to believe that he's doing or will do what he promises. And when you read any of the stories in the New Testament, it's one promise, one miracle after another. It's bam, bam, bam. So, if it's something that you're hoping to happen in your life, then say, Lord, bless me like you did Job, or Lord, redeem me like you did David, or, whatever it is, use my stutter like you did Moses. I mean, there are ways to look at stuff that's happened in the Bible that we easily can relate to. Just because this is, 2024, it doesn't make it unrelatable. And if anything, it makes it more applicable because the world's gone to hell in a handbasket, which it's supposed to. But in all of that, we have to go, God, thank you for helping me not be where I was a year ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago, because whether you see it or not, you are growing, you are changing for the better.
Well, and when the world blows up and you just want a little respite, you can pour yourself a cup of the Roxanne blend of coffee at mybrotherscup.com. Go to the Roxanne blend, click on it, send it to someone you love, and they'll flip out. It's so good. It really, now I did pick out the flavor. So, I'm partial, but
Yeah.
but I hear from people all the time. I've got to have my Roxanne blend. I got to have it.
Yeah. Well, and now with I don't know if you've seen the trend with it's the 18-pound mug challenge. You could pour the Roxanne blend in the 18-pound mug and see if you can lift it. But however you choose to do so, make sure you check it out. You can do so at mybrotherscup.com or go to roxanneandace.com and order yours today.
So I love coffee and I love perfume. A lot of people are sensitive to it, might be a little allergic to it. You might not want to get too close to me because I have a lot of different perfumes and I love them, but they last about 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And so there's a lady on TikTok who gives advice on how to make it last longer. A lot of people said, put it in your hair. I grew up hearing that, but it's not good for your hair to do that.
Yeah.
So they say clothing, if you can make sure it won't stain your clothing, it will hold longer that way. And then a lot of people will put a little bit of Vaseline and then put their fragrance so it lasts longer. I should know this about you, but I really don't. Are you a fragrance guy?
I mean, I like the fragrances that my wife wears. Like I'm like very hyper, like if she hugs me in the morning, like I get a waft of it. And then, whether it was, in her hair or on her shirt or whatever, I'm like, ooh, and she's like, I gotta make my coffee. I'm like, well, don't come hugging me in the morning smelling so good. Or she'll go out, like she'll be going to work or whatever. And I'm like, why are you leaving the house smelling so good? Who you got to impress? She's like, I just want to smell good. It's like, well, I'm taking that with me. You bring that smell home. But yeah, that there are certain, there is like a combination. I don't even know the names of them. I just know when she's wearing the certain combination, I'm like, my bride.
Now, are you somewhere where you will get a whiff and you'll think, oh, Tawny? You'll look around like
Oh yeah, if
it's a
someone's
similar
wearing,
scent.
yeah. But that's the thing I love about whatever combination she has. I don't smell it just out.
Oh,
Like, I mean,
nice.
when it's her, I mean, it is that combination of what she's found. It's not like over the top, flowery. It's not, too, syrupy, sweet smelling, but no, it's very unique. So I can walk into like a Bed Bath and Beyond and not be like overwhelmed and go, "Ooh, my wife's somewhere around here." Yeah.
They have a lilac candle. Oh, it will just
Oh,
change you. It is spring in the room.
yeah, absolutely.
Somebody gave it to me for Christmas, and I'm like, oh,
So
love it.
I meant to ask you, actually, I have this. I was going to put you through the quick test. Have you seen the challenge of is it a Taylor Swift song or a Bed Bath and Beyond fragrance? Have you seen this?
It's
Hold on.
hilarious.
Hold on.
Okay.
We're gonna have to do this quiz because I wanted to see if I could test you on some things and see if you know the difference between one or the other. So here we go. Last Kiss. Is that a Swifty song or is that a fragrance?
Swifty song?
It is a Swifty song. Forever Winter.
That's Bed Bath & Beyond.
No, that's a Taylor Swift song.
Ah, okay.
So let's try this. In the Stars.
What is it?
In the Stars.
Bed Bath & Beyond?
That is a Bed Bath and Beyond fragrance.
Okay.
Nice job. All right. I was just
Okay.
curious.
2 out of
I mean,
3.
I'm not a Swifty, so I would have failed. I mean, I failed all of these, but I made notes of some of the ones that I saw trending. I was like, I'm going to see how many Roxanne knows.
That's pretty cool.
Nice job.
Roxanne and Ace Unlimited, welcome back. God is so generous to us to bring us the most wonderful guests. And this book, well, you know how I read, Ace.
Yes.
I consume books. And this one is just marvelous. Its transparency is incredible. Our guest is Stacy Kaye. She's an award-winning journalist. It doesn't surprise me, over 1,000 articles. But she's really busy being a mom to 4, a bonus mom to 4, with a crop of grandkids. And we understand they are locked out of the bedroom right now so we can do this podcast, which I think is hilarious. The book is called Damaged Goods. You must get it. You will learn so much. It's a devotional for the slightly imperfect, and that certainly does apply. We welcome to the show Stacy Kaye. Hi there.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm so excited to talk to you guys.
So, Stacy, I know for a lot of us, we feel like damaged goods. So I love that this is even touted as not your mom's devotional. So tell us a little bit about how we can kind of get out of that damaged goods thinking.
Well, I think that that's really a tool that Satan uses, right? He just gets into our head and makes us think that because we've made mistakes, because we've gone on our own path and gotten away from God, that God can't use us, or that we're just damaged goods. And so I think that we have to remember who we are and whose we are. And, we're daughters and sons of the King. And so we need to remember that. And I think that changes your mindset when you remember that. And if you really think back to who Jesus used and who he called, he didn't call the Pharisees, he didn't call the perfect, people who are following all the rules. He called regular people, just ordinary people that would serve him and that would love him. And that's really all he needs is our devotion, our love, and for us to glorify him. That's all he wants.
Stacy, you experienced some really intense church hurt that went way back to you as a youth who found yourself unwed and pregnant. Mm-hmm. And I can almost hear, reading the book, the snipey comments about that are supposed to be sweet and helpful, but really aren't. They really stab you and leave you wounded. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, that was such a weird time for me, because having grown up in the church and been so devoted to all of the things that I was doing, being there so much, and it really shocked me when I did have this happen, and nobody came to see me. Like none of my pastor, my youth pastor, nobody in the church came to even or called me. We didn't have cell phones or texting back then, but I had just kind of a line of friends that came in, and maybe they were well-meaning, but most of it was just telling me how I disappointed them and things like that. It was just a weird time, and I felt. On one hand, I felt excited because I was going to get married and I was going to go on down my path. But on the other hand, I felt really hurt. And as I got older and I moved away from that and I really reflected on that, it showed me how to be a different person, how I did not want to be towards other people. And it made me, less judgy and less, less likely to be that way when other people have those kinds of things happen. I want to do the right thing and I want to come alongside them. I'm not saying we accept everything, because certainly we don't accept everything and just go along, but we definitely need to support our fellow brothers and sisters in Christ and come alongside them and help point them in the right direction.
Well, and Stacy, I know for, a lot of people, Easter is kind of that new beginning for them. Maybe they haven't been in a while because of church hurt. And that's become kind of not a cliche phrase, but it's heard often enough that it truly is heightening a lot of churches' awareness. So for someone that's coming back into their faith or into their faith for the first time as a result of that, how would you encourage them when maybe they've come from that really heavy negative mindset?
I think that they need to just really understand that the church is made up of people. We're all imperfect. We're all sinners. So we have to understand that just as we want to be forgiven, we have to forgive and understand that it doesn't matter anyone else's opinion. Jesus's opinion of us is the only one that matters. So we have to just move forward, just forgive it and move away. There are people in the church that are doing the right thing, that are going to come alongside you, that are going to lift you up and that are going to help you. And I think that you just have to find those people. The people who are judging you are not your people. You just have to keep that in mind. I think that's the only way to go through it. But I've heard so much about, it's just full of hypocrites and people don't do what they say. And I've heard that over and over and over. That's true. I mean, that's just true. And I think we just have to accept it and understand that we're not going to find a perfect fit and a perfect solution, because we're in an imperfect world, and understand that Satan uses those things as roadblocks for us. So we have to just look at Christ and we have to move past it and forgive.
Well, and the newest survey by Barna indicates that 48% of those that look at people with religion say we're hypocrites and we're judgmental. That's really tough, but I'm going to be real. As a new Christian, I was judged quite a bit. And there was one point where I was like, when I was in the Dyke Bar with a bunch of motorcycle folks, I was more accepted and loved in that environment than I am in this Bible study group with them telling me my skirt's too short, I talk too loud. They told me part of my testimony wasn't real. I mean, I was like, wow, is this what Christians are like? And it grieves me that you've got a teenage girl scared and is left in a house and her pastor doesn't come to talk. It just, it's like, okay, so we're Christians. How do we avoid being that person whose nose is in the air and who everybody looks at and depicts as the ultimate hypocrite? How can we do better?
So for me, I just have to remember where I came from and the fact that Jesus is the only one who is called to judge. And I know that sounds like really cliche, but at the end of the day, that's where you have to go. And because we all do it, we all see things or hear things or whatever, and like a flash will come through your mind or something. And I just have to let it go and just remember, this is for Jesus. This is not for me. I don't agree with everything, but Jesus loves these people. I don't agree with what they're saying or what they're doing. Jesus loves them. I love them. I don't have to agree with them. I don't have to hang out with them. We don't have to be best friends, but it's not for me to be pointing my finger, to be talking about them, to be making it worse. I need to stand up and speak the truth, and the truth in love, like I need to speak the truth and stand up. I think that sometimes Christians think we have to be silent and we have to be so quiet. And I think that's why a lot of people, today we have this reputation, because we have been so silent. And then when we do speak up, it's almost too much, so I think we need to just stand firm. This is what the Bible says. This is what I believe. I love you. I don't agree with you. I love you. And just go on about your day. And I think we have to be less concerned about what other people think. We don't answer to anyone. We don't answer to them. Yeah. So I think it's hard, but I think that's what we have to do.
Well, and I think too, when you come from the hurt, it's when you hear someone to be transparent of where they've been, but yet they didn't let their faith be shaken. Share a little bit about that when you've had those moments to open up about, what's happened to you and your story and how it spoke to someone.
So it's actually shocked me that the response that I had. It was very difficult because I've had a lot of moments where I was kind of melting down myself thinking, why am I writing this? Nobody cares about me, what my experience was. This book has to be about God, and I want it to point back to God. And so I just had to keep going back and saying, this is about, how God helped me through all of these things that I went through. And I think at the end of the day that we need to be remembering that that's what we're here for. We're to point other people to Christ. And so the things that we do and the things that we say need to glorify God. And we have to get over the things that people do. People are people. People are imperfect. We can't hold them accountable to Christ's standard. So we just have to get over it and we have to move forward. And I know that just sounds, kind of like tough love, but I think if you just sit and you just stew in it and you just like rehash it and go over and over with it, that's what Satan wants us to do. That's where he wants us to get caught and get bogged down. Because when we're doing that, and I had moments when I did that, I had moments when I felt sorry for myself, or I felt mad, or I felt frustrated, but I also got over it. I had to get back in my Bible. I had to get back into prayer. I had to remember that Jesus is my King and my Savior, and I serve him. And I can't do that if I'm sitting on the sidelines feeling bad because somebody talked about me. At the end of the day, they answer for what they say and they do, just like I answer for what I say and do. And so I just have to keep remembering that.
You suffered in an abusive marriage. What advice do you have for women experiencing the very same thing?
I think when you are in it, sometimes, it's hard. It sounds silly, but you have to get out. You cannot stay in that environment and in that relationship. He is not going to change. It is not going to get better. In fact, I think it's going to get worse. And I think that, if he's going to change, you don't have to be there for that. Let him make his changes and, come back later. But staying in there and trying to make him better or change him is a really poor idea. And, I stayed too long. I think, I stayed to the point because I grew up in an environment where divorce was not spoken of. It was not allowed. Nobody got divorced. I didn't know people who were divorced. And so it was not really accepted in my family. And it was really hard for me to even come out and talk to my family about it. They didn't know about the abuse. And when they found out, they were supportive, but it was just, I didn't do it until the day that, my daughter saw him grab me by the neck and pick me up off the ground. And she said, why did daddy hurt your neck? And she was 3. And that was the day I said, that is never going to happen again. She is never going to see that. And my children will not grow up in a household like that. I was 7 months pregnant and I was like, that was it. And I never went back. And I think that you have to get to that point wherever it is. And I was blessed. I had parents who were willing and able to help me, and I could go stay with them for a little bit. If you don't have that, I think you have to find a way out. There are domestic violence shelters or whatever. Just don't stay. Just don't. You are beautiful. You are wonderfully made, and God loves you. And you should remember that. Remember who you are and whose you are, and get out. That's what I always say.
Yeah. Well, and I think for many, we talk about damaged goods and the negative words in our heads. We put ourselves in positions where the friends or the relationships or marriages that we're in is because we think we're not good enough for anything better than those circumstances or those kinds of people. Mm-hmm. And not to give them an out, but they don't know any better. Their blind spots are there. But at some point, our veil gets lifted the closer we get to God, and we see the damage that's being done to us that he hates. And he wants us to think greatly of ourselves, not greater, but in a way of better than what we're thinking of, that we believe in the words. Cause like I've got friends and family that, still believe the things they heard when they were teenagers from, friends or teachers even, and I'm like, you're in your 50s and 60s and you're still listening to that voice, but it really is like deep wounds until we finally release that and let God pull that out of us.
Definitely. We definitely have to let go of the things that we learned and know that from when we were children. There's a lot of things that I was told when I was young in my youth and that I believe. And, I believe that it was wrong for me to get out of that relationship. And I struggled with that for years and years afterwards. I wouldn't even tell people in my church for fear of the judgment, because I knew as soon as they found out that I was going to be pigeonholed into this one, little area. This is what, she's divorced, she's this or whatever. And so I was very careful about who I told that to, even though I was very active in my church and I went all the time and our family went. Only the people close to me really knew until I was ready to open up. And I think, so this was a big thing for me. Obviously I've been open about that for many years now, but it was a big thing for me to open up my whole life like this in a story, in story form.
Absolutely, because you got kids and they've got kids and, it's public, but it's a decision. God asked you to do it and you were obedient, and we're so thankful. The book is called Damaged Goods, #1 on Amazon. It is tearing it up. Congratulations.
Thank you.
People are loving it. And I know women are going to want to connect with you personally. Can they do that?
Oh, absolutely. There's actually a QR code in the book that sends me an email. But outside of that, I'm on social media with Instagram or Facebook. It's Stacy Kaye Books. I have a website, stacykaybooks.com. So I'm easy to find. I'm out there.
Excellent. Stacy Kaye has been our guest. Thank you so much for your time and wisdom today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed it.
So as we wrap up this week, we want to find out what each other's vibing on. So what's your vibe this week? Oh my, you got an Oculus?
Listen. This thing is the coolest.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. I am doing the Les Mills boxing program in it. And it will give you guns. I mean, and it's such great exercise. Now, I have to remember, though, the blinds are open in my living room, just sucking away.
Yeah.
And I thought, I might close the blinds while I'm in here working up a sweat on my. But listen, it's great exercise. It's super fun. I guess I'm a nerd now.
No, well, I mean, weren't you already? Now you got the goggles. But I will say, I always love to watch videos of people doing that in the room. So you see them. Because, I'm like you. Like, I would have to be, like, we do have one main part of our dining room area that I feel like that's the only place I could go without fear of either hurting myself or someone else or breaking something. It's one of those things that, it is what it is. All right. Well, my vibe this week, I have gotten stuck on, after we watched the We Are the World documentary, I've gone down this bunny trail of all of these documentaries. So there's the documentary on Wham that we just watched. There's the documentary on Bruce Springsteen, which then I followed up with the interview he did with Howard Stern, talking about his catalog and all the songs he's written. I mean, just very, like 2.5 hours of all the boss. But just in that, because right now there's like no real shows for me to get into or watch, or unless I'm into a movie, the documentaries is the thing that just, because I like those little rock and roll nuggets. When someone talks about being a fan of something, I'll go, hey, did you know? And sometimes they go, oh yeah, I did that, because then it shows the, that connection of music. And you know me, I'm kind of a junkie when it comes to that kind of stuff. So anytime that there's a rock and roll documentary, I'm like, hey, because I miss the like VH1 behind the music. Like I used to, like, every Sunday night, like that was a staple, right? Yeah. So it kind of fed into that a little bit, but always good stuff. Always great to hang out with you. We want to say thanks to My Brother's Cup and Birmingham Mortgage Group. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow. Tell your friends, and we'll see you again next Friday. As always, Roxanne, I love you.
Love it. And I wore red. Alabama's in the Final Four. If I
Woohoo!
did not mention that,
First time
most
ever.
of my family would have been outraged. So, as someone who all my money went to Auburn, I'm wearing red. That's a big deal.
See, and that's why I'm wearing my Beatles shirt, because music never fails me. When my teams let me down.
Oh.
You've been listening to Roxanne and Ace Unlimited. To make sure you don't miss future shows, you can subscribe anywhere you like to podcast and catch up on anything you've missed. Find out more at roxanneandace.com. Roxanne and Ace Unlimited is a production of Spacebird Media.